Want to open this up with the opening comment?
Yeah, obviously 3 practices in, not going to get up here and make any big grand statements about where we're at. Attitude's been great, really happy with kind of the way they're going out and going about their business, but certainly a long way to go to become the team that we want to be this year. Excited tomorrow for Pro Day. Excuse me. Excited tomorrow for Pro Day. Opportunity for a lot of our guys to come back and really put on a show tomorrow, and so excited to watch those guys. That's a day that I know they've waited for and looked forward to for a long time, and so it's been good to see some of those guys filtering back into town. We had a bunch of them out of practice on Saturday, and so we're heading in a good direction and looking forward to where it goes. So from there, we'll open it up to questions.
Second row on left, Tony, and then Alex right next to you.
Coach, obviously you said so early you're not going to make any proclamations here, but early returns, Marcel Reed is the guy. What are you seeing of him, and what are you liking so far?
Yeah, the Red Sox hat's throwing me for a loop right now. I'm not going to lie, but apparently, we got a Yankees-Red Sox thing going on in my brain right now. No, Marcel's been good. I think obviously it's early, right, and so there's still a lot to do, but I think he's embraced the challenge of needing to take the next step in the program, take the next step in his ability to kind of process through the drop back passing game, and without losing his athleticism and losing his identity, he knows he wants to be able to throw the ball better, and so I think he's meeting that challenge head on. Again, we got a lot to do and a lot to work on to get where we want to be, but excited with the way his mindset is and where he's going.
Second row on left, Alex, and then Olin.
Yeah, Mike, we just talked with Ruben. Just where have you seen him grow this offseason? Just especially with Le'Veon and Amari kind of sidelined this spring with the injuries. Just what kind of opportunity does that give him? With getting reps and all that.
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily gives Ruben an opportunity. I think Ruben would have gotten his reps regardless, but it is nice to see him back and healthy. I think the biggest thing that's been good about Ruben is from the time he got hurt in fall camp until even still now, like just the way he's attacked this thing. You see how passionate he is about football. You see how important it is that he becomes the player that he believes and we all believe he's capable of. And when a kid has a setback like that, you just don't know where the mind goes. Where does it? Do you see him pull away? Does he get frustrated? And you haven't seen any of that from him. I think he's attacked every bit of it. And then for him, it's just and we talked to him about this, and this is why I think it was so important for him to play in the bowl game and then these practices. He still needs to get his timing back. That's when you disappear for that long from the game of football like he did, and now you got to battle back. You got to learn your running mechanics again. Like there's a lot that goes into coming back, and so I do think it's a really important spring for him to be able to go out and do the things that he needs to do to get himself playing the way he wanted to, and certainly the way he was prior to the injury.
Front right, Olin, and then Travis.
Hey, Mike. So the last time I saw you, you were venting in Las Vegas about the problems with zone coverage. I understand you're only 3 practices in, but since that day, in the last 3 months, what kind of steps have y'all taken and progress y'all been able to make toward improving in that area?
Yeah, I think it's just making sure that we clean up expectations, clean up the way we're teaching, clean up the way that they're learning and understanding and processing. Make sure you kind of identify, okay, what do we need to do to get this better? And it's been good. We spent a lot of time in walkthroughs through February, kind of making sure we understood spatially kind of what we were trying to get accomplished, where we were trying to go with it. We continue to do walkthroughs through spring ball. That's kind of just our regular rhythm. And I think, listen, and I said this at the last press conference, there's not a single person in our building that's excited with the way the defense played down the stretch, right? That's not just me. I'm not the only person. And so I think our players have a lot of pride in making sure it gets back to where it was. I think our coaches have a lot of pride in making sure it get back to where it was. And, through 8 games, we were in a really good place, and we just didn't finish the way we wanted to defensively. And so it's an emphasis, it's a focus, and I think we're meeting it head on.
Front left, Travis, then
Mike,
Bart.
I think the cliche is if a player kind of sits out a year that they say they grow in different ways on the sidelines. How has Ruben changed or grown or developed as a player because of that time he had to sit on the sidelines, and how have maybe you seen that?
I think every kid matures a little bit. I think honestly, at our level in college, you would hope that the maturity happens regardless of playing or not. I think, Le'Veon Moss, who played a whole season last year, I think grew in a lot of ways through the offseason. I think Ruben does too. I think, what you're seeing is there's an urgency as you get to the back end of your college career. I think every kid comes in as a freshman thinking, college is going to last forever, right? And then you don't really see the end of it. And then, he gets his sophomore year taken away from him, and now all of a sudden it's like, wow, okay, this is imminently ending. And I think that just kind of creates a little bit of an urgency in terms of how you go about your daily preparation, how you go about your processes in the weight room, in the training room, the effort and energy you put into studying tape the way you want to. I just think you see that natural maturity and growth, which is good for him and most of our players too.
Front right, Mark, and then we'll go to the back.
Mike, it seems like you got three guys pretty much set in a rotation at defensive tackle. So do you look at the spring as kind of a tryout camp for maybe like Evans and some of the freshmen to kind of figure out where you're going to go there with the fourth guy and try to fill out your 2
I wouldn't say anything's set. I would say it's an open audition for everybody to go get reps. I think, obviously Al and DJ have played a lot of football here for us. Tyler has played a lot of football at another school. But our challenge to all of those guys is go earn reps. I think Dalen, Jaden Scarlett, the three freshmen that are all here, I think you've got 5 guys that if you put them on a podium, certainly wouldn't tell you their plan is to sit on the bench and take a back seat. And so I think it's good. I think it's healthy competition. And, we talk a lot about it from this perspective too. Like the spring is critical for us to get better at football. And that's not just new guys or guys who haven't played a lot. Like you get, and we talked about this last year, but you get so many more padded practices in the spring than you do in fall camp, which is crazy. And so this is really the time where fundamentally, physically, the mentality, the technique, like all of that stuff gets developed now. And so, even to the kids who have played a lot of football or maybe projected to be the guys, I think it's still really critical that they come out and have really sharp, really strong practices too, because I don't think you can just assume it's going to come naturally for them in the fall.
Coach, go back behind the lights to the right, Nicole, and then Donna on the left.
Coach, when you lose, the Stewarts and Skirton, just how do you go about replacing them, or if you can't even replace them, or just fill in their positions?
Yeah, I mean, that's college football. I think if you're running a program right in the SEC, you're going to have NFL talent walk out the door after a season, and you're going to have to figure out how to fill the gaps, replace, replenish, or emphasize other areas to compensate. And I think that's all kind of what you try to figure out as you go through spring ball and fall camp is how are we going to play defense the best? And that's not always the same answer, right? And so in some years where you have strengths in certain areas or certain positions, it can look one way. If that position takes a step back a little bit, but another position goes up and gets better, then it looks a little different. And I don't know that you have those answers until you go out and play. I think there's a lot of kids in that locker room that want to step into that spotlight. Cassius Howell, Rylan Kennedy, some of the transfers that we brought in, TJ, Dayon Hayes, Sam and Pemba, like those kids want to become household names to Aggie fans. And so you got to give them the chance to play it out and see what it looks like, and then just kind of formulate the package around what the strengths and weaknesses really totally are.
Staying back behind the lights to the left, Donna.
Coach, last week you talked about the continuity of the offensive line and just being able to kind of add some depth with some newcomers. How have you seen some of the older guys maybe step up and take on more of a leadership role now?
Yeah, I think it's just, the pace of practice is probably a little bit better, the way we're able to transition around, knowing what it's all about. There's a little bit less learning. We're kind of getting into the 300 level, 400 level a little bit quicker, which is good. And I just think it's an overall understanding of how important it is that we do the things on a day-to-day basis we need to do to be successful.
Front right to the right, Carter.
Mike, Marcel said last week that one of his goals is to complete around 70% of his passes. Just how realistic do you see that being, and just what have you seen from him from an accuracy standpoint, and how he can maybe get to that point?
Yeah, again, it keeps coming back to, we've had 2 practices in helmets and 1 in shoulder pads, and so, do I think he can get to that point? Yes. What have I seen from him? 3 days in, him throwing the ball. I think, again, numbers, I'm glad he has high goals and aspirations. Whether or not he can get there or not, that'll be on him and how hard he works. I don't think anybody's shying away from the fact that we need to throw the football at a better level in order for us to be successful and finish this next season the way we want to.
Front left, Cease.
Mike, getting back to Olin's question about the defense, what happened last year, could that change how you coach moving forward? Could you be more involved in game week preparations and maybe more hands-on during the games or not?
Yeah, I think we've kind of addressed that already through the offseason, that I'll have a bigger role in what we're doing. I don't think that's because I don't have confidence in anybody in the building, or certainly not that I don't have confidence in Coach Bateman. Coach Bateman's a phenomenal coach. I think it's an identification of an issue that needs to get solved, and believing that I have an ability to help solve it. I think that's really what it comes down to. And again, like, everybody wants it to be this big, massive, dramatic thing, and I don't think it's all that. I don't think we don't look at it that way in our building. Our players don't look at it that way. I think we're all aware that, in 3 games down the stretch, we didn't play defense well, and so we can't do that again.
Anything else? Down front, Mark, wrap us up.
Mike, you obviously got a lot of changes at receiver, a lot of fast guys, maybe a little bit small. You think that might open up a little more opportunities for a guy like an Amari Niblack or a Keoti Armstrong to get out there and kind of be the big receiver kind of in the slot?
Yeah, I think we'll have to get a little bit creative. I don't know that those 2 things necessarily go together in my head, big receiver in the slot, but I do think, there's a need for big receivers and the ability for tall kids to make plays in the red zone, in the goal line area. We're going to have to find ways to do that. I do think Ashton Bethel Roman has good size about him. Jonah Wilson has good size about him. And then obviously I think we're blessed with 2 extremely tall and long tight ends. And certainly we'll be interested to see the role they'll play and how this whole thing comes together.
Coach, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you guys.